I'm out here in Dave's garage, and I want to tell you about the best saxophone lesson I ever had. The best sax lesson I've ever had. And I had a lot of good ones, all right? But this one in particular changed my life. Okay, first of all, I signed up to have a lesson, and it was a big chunk of time. I think maybe 3 or 4 or 5 hours with a major jazz saxophone player. And at that time, I was not a major jazz saxophone player myself. I was really new to the form. I came up R&B, rock and roll, funk, soul, church, that sort of thing. I really wasn't a jazz player by any standards, and so I go to the top of the hill, and he agrees to see me. I'm going to leave the name out of who it was, and I'm sweating bullets. I mean, I go to this house. I'm there a little bit early, and he greets me very kind, and we go in the house and sit down, and I'm thinking, oh God, I am gonna suck so bad, right? I'm really worried, because, those of you who take lessons, they're kind of like little mini recitals, sometimes I'll go, and take a horn lesson from somebody, or, work out on some things, and I'll forget like how to play a C major scale. I mean, it's kind of interesting, the process of being in a lesson, being the recipient of a lesson. So here I am with this guy. He's sitting in one side of the room, and I'm sitting on the other, and I'm thinking, what's next? The horns never come out for the whole time I'm there. The horns do not come out. There is no playing of the saxophone. Do you know what happened? We listened to records. I kid you not. What he did was, in that span of time, he played dozens upon dozens upon dozens of records, MP3s, CDs, all kinds of just music, in the jazz idiom. And he taught me, while we were doing this, what to listen for and why it was important. Those are two qualities that I found just to be absolutely priceless. What to listen for and why that was important, all right? And I want to pass that on to you. When this is how the music. Okay, I'm rambling a little bit. I get excited and sometimes I ramble. Take a big deep breath, calm, Dave. Okay, so music is a nonverbal language. Let's agree to that. Music is a nonverbal language, all right? And the way you learn any language is by listening first, then repeating, right? Listen and then repeat. Of course, with encouragement, but we're listening, and that's the most important part. Think about back when you were a baby. Do you remember that? Did your mom come into the crib and hand you a dictionary and say, here's this dictionary. Read this, and when you got a few words down, bark them out to me and I'll come back. No, that didn't happen. What she did was she came and she talked to you. You were surrounded. We call that full immersion, right? You were surrounded by whatever language you learned to speak, whatever your primary language is. You were fully immersed in that. Your mom talked to you all the time. Your dad talked to you all the time. If you had older brothers and sisters, they talked all the time. Your aunt, your grandparents, everybody they were yakking at you all the time, and you picked it up because we are imitative by nature, right? And that's how we learn to get our needs met, right? We learned, oh, that's a smile. Oh, when I say this, that happens. When I say that, that happens. When I holler, that happens, right? We connected all those dots. And by the time you were, three-ish, maybe, two-ish, you could get your needs met in your language. Kind of amazing, isn't it, right? You weren't reading at that point. You had learned by ear, okay? So likewise, what we do is when we teach music, we teach it backwards. We hand you a book or a bunch of theory, and we say, go learn all this stuff and get back to me. Honestly, that's not how you learn this language. You learn it by listening. So this is how I want to leave you with this. The most important thing that you can do, the best thing that you can do for your saxophone playing, for your soloing, for your improvising, is to listen. Just sit down and listen. And if you're a beginner, make this part of your day. If you're intermediate, make this part of your day. If you're an advanced player, make this part of your day. If you're a pro recording artist, make listening, well, you already do, of course, but make this part of your day. Make listening, I mean, just chunk out a bunch of time and just say, I'm going to listen to this, right? And listen to all kinds of music. Listen to guitar players. I mean, I learned listening to guitar players. When I was a kid, I didn't know from saxophone. There wasn't anybody playing saxophone except in the school band. And nothing against school band, but you know, it just didn't cut it for me. How many times can you play hot cross buns in a room full of people that don't know how to play their instruments? Well, you get it was like that for you too, I know. So I got to, you know, to join a band. A couple of guys started a rock band when I was in the 6th grade. We were 11 years old, maybe 12, no, probably 11. And we started this band. And we had to listen to a record to learn how to play the song. That's how we did it back then. Wasn't any YouTube, wasn't any of that stuff. I don't even think Jamie Aebersold had been born yet, right? Well, I'm kidding, but still. We learned by listening to the radio or by listening to records, 45s, you know. And that's exactly how we did it. Listen for the rules. Listen for what's important. Listen for how the instruments each talk to each other. Why don't you go right now and grab the Beatles' White Album, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, George Harrison. All right? Cue that up. I'll wait. All right, you got it ready? Now listen. You're going to listen to this record. You're going to listen to While My Guitar Gently Weeps, which is just a brilliant little record because it's got just everything in it. I want you to listen to how that works. Now listen to the solo that Eric Clapton lays down. Eric Clapton comes in and he's the guy that puts the solo down. And here's Eric Clapton at this point in his career. You know, people have been, he's out of cream now, and people have been spray painting Eric Clapton is God, you know, all over, I guess all over London, and maybe even in America too. But he doesn't come in and go, well, I'm Eric Clapton. People call me God. He plays a solo that sounds like the Beatles, okay? But he follows, even more important, he follows something that we refer to as the rule of 3, right? Play an idea, simple, repeat the idea a second time, and the third time modify it just a little bit, okay? He does that. Listen to that solo. Listen to the, you know, and then the second part of the chorus of the solo, he takes it upstairs. He goes up an octave and he basically repeats the same thing and modifies that. So here's the guy that, you know, the king of guitar players in his day. And he doesn't come in and just blaze, oh, I'm Eric Clapton. No, he plays a beautiful solo that fits the Beatles record. And he follows the simple rule of thirds. Think about that. Think about that when you listen to other people playing other solos. It's kind of hard to follow along sometimes when you're listening to, you know, Michael Brecker having a big, you know, amazing meltdown, or Chris Potter or John Coltrane or any of those guys. So maybe listen to their ballads. Listen to that wonderful collection of ballads, Johnny Hartman and John Coltrane together. They put that out, and you can follow exactly how they listen to each other, how the band works together, how they influence each other. Listen to that stuff, and then see if maybe down the road you can't replicate a little bit of that, right? I mean, you don't have to sound, you know, but you can start to absorb those ideas and repeat them, and have your teacher hear you, you know, or maybe somebody in your family. Learn a little piece of that and play that and see how that goes over. Get a little feedback, kind of the way that we did when we were learning how to speak English. We get a little feedback. Try a couple of words out, get a little feedback. Did this work? Did that work? I don't know, whatever it is. So anyway, back to the main thesis of today's rambling session is that listening was the most important lesson. What to listen for and why it was important is the most important thing that I could have been given at that time from a brilliant jazz tenor sax player. All right, that's what I'm gonna leave for you today, all right? Go out and do some listening and then go play. You don't play enough. How do I know? Because I don't play enough. So listen and then play. Thanks for being here.